Hello, and welcome to Retrospective Cinema, a podcast wherein we'll endeavor week after week to see the full filmographies of chosen directors. We'll interpret, critique, and discuss. I'm your co-host, Ryan Saylor.
And I am your other co-host, Annie Morell. And this week, coming off of 8.5, we get to Juliet of the Spirits, which some people have described as a feminine 8.5. Here's a clip.
Addio Juliet. Non trattenermi. Non hai più bisogno di me. Anch'io non sono che una tua invenzione. Tu invece sei la vita. Ciao, bistecchina.
That was once again from Juliet of the Spirits, though right off the bat, I do have some complaints about the title being unnecessarily anglicized.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, we are a full spoiler podcast. Again, another one that, can you spoil this? Is there really a plot?
I don't really think you can. In looking up what this film is basically about, like the tiny blurbs you'll see online, that basically is the whole plot. So
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, why in the world did we not call this Julieta of the Spirits? It's very strange to me because it's not like I think we even made a joke in the Eva Deloni episode about like what the anglicized versions of those names would be. That is literally what they did here. And it's like, I can hear them calling her Julieta. Like, I understand that much Italian.
yeah.
Like, maybe just, it flows better as a title, like Juliet of the Spirits versus Julieta of the Spirits. Like, you kind of have to do a glottal stop there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Whatever the reasoning, not a great choice. Because,
No.
While you're reading the subtitles, and I get, whoever's subtitling is preserving the title of the film. But yeah, you're literally reading Juliet and hearing Julieta, and it's disorienting constantly. Not great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's how I assume Italian speakers feel watching these films that are all dubbed so horribly. Like, it is very dissonant in my mind and vision. That's fine. We can get over that, I guess.
We talked about last week, 8.5 was a very autobiographical film. Fellini was kind of processing what he wanted to be, both as an artist and as a partner, potentially to his wife, or, if that wasn't happening, what he wanted to be in his relationships in general. We mentioned that we were heading toward this one where Julieta of the Spirits, it was written somewhat as a apology, is often the wording used online, to his wife, where he could write, from her perspective and dive back into that fantastical autobiographical subject, except this time it was Julieta Messina's point of view, at least as Fellini perceived it. So this film is about a character named Julieta trying to come to terms with her cheating husband and finding freedom by leaving him is actually what Fellini writes.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to that, I'm sure.
I can't believe. I mean, I can believe, I guess. I don't know. It's such a weird apology to be like, yeah, you really should have left me. Here you go.
Yeah, we'll get to it. But along the way, Fellini tries to tap into the feminine in a way that I think is pretty new to this film. I mean, the vast majority of the characters are women. There's a mysticism here that feels stereotypically feminine, although maybe that's just my interpretation. I guess I could run that by you.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree.
There's a conversation going on here about where he thinks she should go. And yeah, I mean, it's an exciting, interesting film. I get people saying that it's a feminine 8.5. I do think it approaches things quite differently throughout. Yeah. So with all that in mind, if we were to talk just through the plot, we'd get through it very quickly. This film is not very plot heavy, but Annie listed her own series of topics throughout. So I'm excited to hear what they are so we can discuss these.
Yeah. I mean, we start out, not to immediately go into plot recounting, but we start out with her getting ready for her husband to come home. I do think this is like pretty much the inciting incident, so that's important to talk about.
Sure.
But yeah, she's getting ready and she's kind of deciding between wigs, and she's this upper class woman who has maids around her helping her, and we don't see her face this whole time. Like, we see her back of the wig, changing the wigs and her silhouette, and then a little bit later when the husband comes home, Giorgio, it doesn't really matter. He's the husband. That's his main attribute. He's the cheating husband. But when he comes home, like, we don't see his face for a really long time. And I guess I was wondering, and I think then that happens throughout with various people, especially like in character introductions. I noticed there were a lot of characters where you either didn't see their face or it was pretty obscured for a good long while at the first time that they appear on screen. So I was wondering if you had a take on that.
Yeah, I did notice it. I mean, especially with her in that opening, it's very striking because you spend, I think, probably like 2 minutes with the camera dodging her face. It's cool.
For me, it hyped me up. Yeah, I was like, yeah, we know it's Julieta. We know it.
I mean, I think that is there. I think it's you know her, you'll love her, like that kind of thing going
she's
on.
back, baby. Yeah.
But as it evolves in the film and this kind of visual motif does come back, I think there's maybe a lean toward making people ethereal or fleeting. I mean, humanity is very much on our faces often, especially, I mean, in Fellini's films, the human face has been how he grounds his movies so often. So I think intentionally obscuring that makes figures into figures where they're less grounded, less human, and potentially more spiritual.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that I think it's mostly characters who are real.
Yes.
Who this is done to, maybe only. And I think that's part of it too, is like, you know, for her, she's clearly someone with a big imagination, and then she's also going through kind of a breakdown. And so that results in a lot of fantasies. There's, as you said, a mysticism element. There are ghosts. There are memories. It's all of these elements, and they're all kind of bleeding into each other too. And this woman who has this great imagination that she's carried with her from childhood to adulthood, it makes sense that things just appear. People just appear when they are imaginary. And the idea that real people kind of gradually warm up on the screen, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Should we talk about ghosts?
Yeah. So there are a lot of different types of spirits in this movie. I think you're right. There are definitely ghosts, but there also are, I mean, the one is almost demonic. There's definitely horror elements in this film.
Yeah.
There's also just potentially, like more traditional spirits. They're all kind of converging, like you said. Nothing in this film is conforming to any strict tradition, I guess, of spirits. They're all kind of here at once.
Yeah, well, and by the end, they literally pretty much all are there at once. It's just a room and property full of this woman's fantasies and ghosts. Yeah, the more literal kind of the ghosts that are brought on initially by a seance, like a group seance, Iris and Olaf. Iris clearly like a ghost that maybe Julieta already knew. And then Olaf is this very rude, mean, scary ghost who also continues to follow her around throughout. And maybe it's just, like parts of her talking to herself. I think Iris obviously like gives her advice and tells her like, oh, Susie should be your mentor. And
well, one really important thing there that I did not catch during the film, but at least according to the credits online, Sandra Milo plays Susie, Iris, and Fanny. It's all the same actress.
Yes. Yeah, so Sandra Milo plays Susie, who is like her sexy neighbor. Iris, who is the ghost that gives her advice and tells her to go to Susie. And then Fanny, who I'm pretty sure is who her grandfather runs away with at the circus, which we will get to. But starting with Susie, Julieta finds a cat, names it Susie, and then goes to find the owner, and then finds that the owner is this very sexually free single lady neighbor of hers, also named Susie. So I think it's fair to say off the bat that she is not real. And she has a really cool house, if she is real. A slide that goes from the bed to a pool.
Danger from mold, but otherwise pretty neat.
How? If it's top to bottom, you're not climbing up the slide.
Well, yeah, that's fair. I don't know.
I think it's sound.
Okay.
That's not the problem I have with it. I don't have a problem with her house. Her house is this like gaudy sex palace, essentially.
Yes.
There are peacocks all over the place, like stained glass. She takes Julieta to this platform in the trees, like outside of her property, that has a weird little elevator system that's just kind of a giant shell that you sit in.
Yeah, I loved it.
I loved it too. I especially loved, so it's like a black like orb that's got the top cut off so you can get in it. But then Julieta is wearing a black hat. It's basically like what would be the top of it. And I really wanted her, because she was so tiny, to just be a full ball. I don't know if that was intentional. I feel like it had to be. But anyway, Susie is, to me, essentially Julieta's foil. Like, she is everything that Julieta is not. She's loud and single, and she has sex with a bunch of men, and she lives her life how she wants to, and she's very dolled up and tall and blonde, and Juliet is the small woman who's like very respectably dressed through most of the film, I would say. I think the reason that Iris says like, oh yeah, she's your mentor, is that Julieta is exploring the possibility of like what that would be like for her, like if she were to be more like that. I think there's also an element of, there are like men around her telling her that it's her fault basically throughout. That that if she was like sexier or did sex better, the Kama Sutra, a real thing they talk about, then he would not be cheating on her. So I think it's her being like, okay, well, what would this be like? And it's clearly not her. Like, it's just not for her. She's very conservative. Like, she clearly has a Catholic background. And I'm talking about, the character and the actual woman. And that'll be the whole film, probably. Do you have thoughts on Susie?
I mean, this is gonna take us all over, but my big problem with the film, I haven't processed it yet, and I don't know if it affects my enjoyment, and I don't even know if it's actually a problem or if it's just a vibe I get. But so that, yeah, you have this character throughout that is her foil, is this free-spirited modern woman doing what she wants. And yes, like you said, Julieta, it's just not her vibe, like, the whole time. Where I get a kind of almost icky vibe from the film is, it felt to me like, especially with the ending, with her, going off into the forest, like the film's answer was, if she embraced this thing that wasn't her, she could be happy.
What?
Okay. If you interpret it so differently, I'm glad, because it genuinely, like, I just wasn't sure even what to do with it. Because yeah, we see the whole film this constant like, oh, you need to do this, this, and this. The one time that she is leaning into it, she like lays down to sleep with this boy toy, and her Catholic guilt kicks in, and she like runs off.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the film, she's able to be like, I'm free, and then she goes. So at least to me, it felt like the film was saying those things holding her back were keeping her unhappy, and like if she could be this free-spirited woman, she would be happier. But because that just wasn't her character, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So well, you reacted so strongly. How do you read all of that?
I mean, I'm gonna have to skip to the end of the film, but yeah, that's fine. I think what we see at the end of the film is her house filling up with almost every fantasy ghost thing that she has imagined throughout, all the weird nuns, just everyone. And they all of them, including Susie, including her grandfather and his mistress, they all leave. And the grandfather and a young Julieta, who is freed from like the religious martyrdom, which is, I think, maybe where I see actually supportive evidence for your take. But to me, I took it as she's looking at these two extremes of like the suppressed, guilt-filled Catholicism of her youth, where she was made to be a religious martyr in a school play. And then you have Susie, the kind of free-spirited, free love side of things. And then, as you said, there's the boy toy, there's her husband's friend who also really flirts with her a lot. There's the guy who's like, oh, would you consider me? Who she's clearly not into at all. This like much older man who kind of propositions her at one point. And all of those people show up at the end and they all leave. And I really think that doesn't mean like, oh, I'm embracing. If Susie leaves at the end, how can she be embracing Susie's lifestyle? Or if the boy toy leaves at the end, if these other men who have propositioned her in one way or the other all leave at the end, then how can it be her abandoning her values? I think it's her quieting all the voices of other people inside her head. And it's very vague at the end. Her spirit friends call to her and say, we can stick around if you want. And she doesn't answer them. But she walks off away from the house, away from, the domestic life of serving her husband who is cheating on her a bunch. And I think it's one of those, I think it's a very similar ending in that way to I Vitelloni, where our Fellini stand-in is like getting on a train off to hopefully better, but we don't know. I think she's made a decision to leave ultimately at the end, as you said earlier. I think that's what Fellini is saying. And be true to herself along the way and stop listening to her family and her, I don't know, friends and her deepest fears. So that's how I interpreted the ending.
Okay. I guess the film does so much, setting up. When she's a kid, she's chosen to play probably Joan of Arc, but I guess they don't say.
That's what
some martyr burned at the stake.
Some Christian martyr specifically.
Yes. And that kind of image, stays with her whole life, and it represents this value she's holding of, going down with the ship is the ultimate form of maybe not what she necessarily actually wants to be, but what she subconsciously is holding to. And so toward the end of the film, she's able to, in this beautiful German expressionist hallway, let that go. And so because that's such the narrative arc of the film, and where she's freed is where, she tells her mother, you don't scare me anymore or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think there's so much to that side of things that I maybe missed that she also chose to not go against how she wanted to be. But yeah, you're right that everyone leaves at the end. But maybe I just needed another scene or two across the film of her seeing a reason to not do that, because as we see her lean into it, she does seem happy, and what holds her back is that same image of her as a martyr. So I like the way the film presents it. It seems like she would be happy if she did that, or at least it read that way to me. It's just that she was held back by herself. So yeah, if the film was going for what you're saying, which I think it might be based on how it ends, I maybe needed more of that.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's a really fair critique. I think because I don't get evidence against what I'm saying.
Sure.
That's the main reason. And I think there's something to, initially, cheating on your husband might feel really good and gratifying for a myriad of reasons in her situation, but then she gets a second to think and she runs away from it ultimately. And part of that comes from her faith that she learned in her childhood, and that's why we see the martyrdom flashback so much. And I think there's something to, Catholicism specifically, divorce is very bad. Like they made a whole other religion, or Henry VIII did at least. So I understand why it's not plainly there if this is the point that he is trying to make, but I think there's a sort of like false equivalency happening between like, oh, it's the same as like cheating on your husband as like getting a divorce. Like those are both equally damnable in her eyes, leaving her husband that she made this eternal promise to. And so maybe that's her getting over that.
Okay.
And, there's this the fact that it's like vague spirit friends, it's like this new kind of newer spirituality calling out to her that things are going to be okay. That's me like going out on a bit of a limb for sure, but I like that. That'll be my headcanon.
No, I mean, I think anything's better than the way I was reading it, because the film's so visually focused that I wasn't necessarily getting super hung up on it, although I obviously wanted to bring it to the table. But it almost felt like, Fellini, who we are pretty sure has cheated, was saying like, why don't you just do the same thing? So I'm glad it's not that, if you're right.
Yeah. Oh, geez. I can see that actually, but she doesn't.
Right.
I think she would go off with one of the men if that was the ending. The fact that all three of those options, I think those three types of men are supposed to signify like the basic types of affairs that she could have. She could have, one where she leaves him and marries that older dude who probably like has a good job. Seems like a regular dude, but just older and not desirable to her. The friend, like sleeping with a friend of his, and then the himbo. The himbo guy, just like pick a rando and go for it. Get yours, girl. And she dismisses them all.
Sure.
So I don't know.
Fair enough.
I think that's a good sign.
Yeah.
And she also doesn't try to have sex with one of the guys in the treetops that comes up. Like she leaves because those guys are coming up.
Right before the threesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a horny movie also.
I mean, some of her some of her fantasies are just like big old ship pulling up, and then the belly of it opens up, and then there's just honestly BDSM like leather people doing various suggestive things. Before we were on mic, Ryan was pointing out that he thought, and I agree, we get a full frontal nude man very briefly at one point. We get certainly a lot of bare breasts, a lot of women with the gals out.
Obviously the 60s were a shifting time for cinema, but Italy definitely got to more rampant nudity before we did, because this would have not quite flown in the same year in America.
Which of course, the standards are flipped, between nudity, sexuality, and then violence here in Europe, as most people I think know. Going back to kind of her conservatism versus all this kind of exploration of free love and sexuality, there's the really weird gender neutral maestro who she goes to for advice, and that's where she gets the Kama Sutra recommendation. There's an artist friend of hers who is clearly very sexually free. Like the beginning, we get a passionate kiss with her younger lover. She, as an artist, imagines a god that she can bang.
She was straight off DeviantArt. It was so funny. And she's like this.
Yeah.
She's like sculpting, and she's like, I make these sculptures for my fantasies. Like, okay.
Yeah. Just Georgia O'Keeffe painting flowers. At one point she hires a PI, and he tries to counsel her on her marriage in the midst of it. Like really tries to talk her out of even confirming that there's an affair, even though, I mean, at this point she's heard a call between her husband and his lover, Gabriella, and it's like so clear that he's having an affair. There's a man who's like, you should really try to repair your marriage. Like, I think you can come back from this. So I think that's another thing of like, he shows up at the end and disappears with the rest of them. So that's her like shutting the door on like, we can work this out, which is funny again, thinking of Fellini himself writing this.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a love letter to her. I think there's something to the fact that Julieta is this wildly imaginative and different person throughout. I mean, the fantasies, yes, but then also like he highlights her small stature yet again. In this one, there's a specific scene that I was like, man, where it's her mom, her sister, I think, and then another lady. And the three of them are all in like pastels and these big frilly hats and outfits. And then there's Julieta in just an all white, very classy looking outfit, comparatively demure hat. And she's super small. They're all very tall, towering over her, and they're walking along. And yeah, there's this definite comparison throughout of her and other women and her being so alternative looking and alternatively beautiful, I think, ultimately. There's the weird eye exercises thing where she's doing it's like a TV program that's teaching you how to help them sparkle. Her wig fixation and maintenance throughout, like the beginning is her trying on different wigs, and then she's like maintaining them. That's her main craft, it appears, is like curling them and maintaining them throughout. So there's a definite, like, I think, highlight of her being alternative looking and feeling like she's not conventionally attractive, potentially.
Like everyone else is made up to kind of hide their age, whereas you can kind of see like her age lines forming.
Oh yeah, and her mom tells her to put on makeup,
and she's like, well, we were just at the beach.
It's like, get her, stand up to your mom. Yeah, she's like, make an effort. Jeez. Again, it's like, oh, it's her fault. You know, there are all these people around her, either intentionally or unintentionally, telling her that her husband's betrayal is her fault. And thank goodness at the end, her freeing herself is her, I think, saying it's not your fault.
No,
actually, which I like. I like that message,
yeah,
if nothing else. I think that's a strong theme to be had here.
Yeah. I think Fellini obviously very good at writing himself. I think it was harder for him to get in the headspace of his wife and, you know, represent all facets of her in the way that, 8.5 kind of set up, and this tries to emulate the getting into all of this surreal stuff to show these other sides of your lead. I don't think she has a writing credit to her name. I haven't looked it up, but I almost wish that he let her into the writing room and helped.
Yeah.
I think you can kind of see, whereas say 8.5, I definitely said effortless, like on pulling this all together. I think you can kind of see some of the effort on this one. You know, it's good effort. Like, I think this film is still very impressive. And visually, I think I can see kind of where he might go from here. Like, this feels like setting up a new Fellini.
Yeah, there was some twee shots in this. Some very twee shots, like the plane, the grandfather, and his little and I think a lot of the circus shots in general feel, I want to say Wes Anderson, but obviously this is way, way before that.
The opening credits on this, the like blue background, white text with Nina Rota's kind of circusy score, I thought we were in for a whimsical movie. Like, I was so unsure of what I was about to get.
I think there's dark whimsy here. I mean, I think,
but
yeah. I don't know if you read this. Fellini supposedly said that he took LSD in order to write this, which I believe, honestly. That I believe. It is so freaky. There are so many freaky visual choices. Like in one of the dream sequences, and then it happens a few other times, the kids in the play sequence, the background kids, their faces are so they feel superimposed in a very janky way, but I think it could just as easily be just like tulle over their faces. I couldn't really tell. It was very disturbing effect wise. There's a bird with breasts as a bust with a pigeon head. I would love for someone to tell me what that meant.
I mean, it almost referenced a line earlier in the film, because they're talking about the sounds you should make during sex.
That's right. The birds.
At one point, she says, like, you should sound like a pigeon.
I tried to block that out. That made me so uncomfortable.
You didn't find that scene erotic?
No.
No, I don't think it was meant to. It was a strange scene.
Yeah, I did kind of laugh at it. This one I kind of felt was funnier at times. At least laugh out loud funny for me. Versus 8.5, which I know you will disagree with me.
Yeah, very disagree, but I get you.
Should we talk about Laura? Speaking of one of the ghosts, the many ghosts. So Laura is a part of her, she's like a childhood friend of Julietta's who committed suicide because of love.
That's at least how she remembers it, but yeah.
That's how she remembers. Yeah, I mean, that's the caveat for so much of this. It's like her memory, and she's so readily says, about her grandfather of like, I always imagined that he left on a circus plane. So it's so clear that, yeah, we can't trust anything that happens in this movie, pretty much. We get introduced to Laura as a little girl when Juliet is going to be a martyr, asks her to ask God a question for her. Laura asks Julieta to ask God if he loves her.
Mm-hmm. And she doesn't get an answer, right?
And she doesn't get an answer. When she comes down, she's like, did you ask? And then later we hear about how she killed herself. At the very end, she shows up as a ghostly voice. And this is when Julieta is like at rock bottom, full breakdown, full despair. And Laura suggests that she kill herself. She's like, I did it, and it was peace and quiet and good. And there's even like a visual reference to Ophelia with her character. It's like the shot where she is laying underwater, eyes closed, and there's kind of lilies, and there's a painting of the character of Ophelia that is that. So I liked that as a Shakespeare fan. I wasn't sure what to make of her as a symbol amongst this, other than ultimately hitting rock bottom with Julieta, or helping her hit rock bottom.
I mean, I think there's guilt there. I think that when she is in this martyrdom position, she doesn't ask on behalf of her friends. I think, there's always regret whenever the last time is that you see a friend or lose a friend, like you think about the things that you're like, I should have done this differently. So I think there's just that. I think because it's related to her scene as a martyr, she kind of holds on to it. And also it's just, it is traumatic to lose a friend that young, let alone to suicide.
Yeah. Well, and if she, remembers it as her dying for love.
Right.
And then is in this place of despair about her love life.
Right.
I can see why it comes up.
And so from there, I mean, she's, fantasizing all these different ways. I think it makes sense that fantasy is one of her friends saying, like, why don't you join me? Because she wants fantasies that give her a way out at this point.
Sad.
Yeah, not good.
Not good. But she pushes through it. We do get the
yes.
She's got the biggest tears in the business, Julieta Messina. My goodness. Get another good big old single tear welling up shot. Just like from Knights of Cabiria, in case you didn't listen to that or watch that movie.
We also get her looking at the camera. I thought it was going to be the last shot of the film for a second to do the full callback, but it didn't actually happen.
I thought so. I'm glad. I think that would have been a little much.
A little heavy-handed. Yeah, fair.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wide shot of her, like, walking away from her home and into the unknown. So, again, I think it supports my theory.
I mean, on that note, I think there are explicit references to previous Fellini films in a kind of interesting way. Like, we got the medium scene again from La Dolce Vita.
Yeah. The swing, from the outdoor magical swing from The White Sheik.
And then, like this Knights of Cabiria reference. So it is interesting. I mean, obviously, with the last film being named 8.5, we talked a lot about him viewing his films in context and inviting the viewer into that context. But I thought it was interesting to have so much self-reference in a film that isn't meta this week.
He's like, you must have seen my other work if you're here watching Juliet of the Spirits.
Just briefly, after I finished the film, I kind of went and read some other thoughts online. And this one quote from Roger Ebert, I mean, we've kind of already talked about the consequence of it, but I think it did help me and I want to shout it out. He says, after Juliet, Fellini made Fellini Satyricon. Now that both these movies have been re-released in newly mastered and restored 35mm prints, we can see him as the master of his canvas. He was a storyteller early in his career, but he became a painter of moving images. And those who fixate on plots or messages are hunting in the wrong field. Now, I don't quite feel as strongly as Ebert did here. I think the messages are still important, but I think this does shift us away in a way that started with 8.5, But yeah, fully, like, the plot here is certainly secondary to the images, the vibe, and I would say the messaging, though. Reading that helped me be like, okay, it's okay that I didn't latch on to the plot as much, because you're not meant to.
One figure we haven't gone deeply into yet is the grandfather, who shows up in flashback fantasies. I've referenced that he, in her mind, ran away with this young circus lady on a circus plane and clearly did leave in some way. He's also a part of the martyr sequence, the stage play sequence, and like doesn't want her to do that, which I thought was, I didn't quite know what to make of that.
He's running away with a free spirit, so I think it makes sense that in her converging memories, he's pulling her away from the more strict side, this repressed side,
self-flagellation side of Catholicism.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I like that a lot. And then by the end, he does come back, which I liked, that little bit of hope right after her very low moment with Laura. He's the last to leave, and you know, her younger self joins him. I thought that was very cute. They wave goodbye to her nightmares, basically, leaving all on a big cart in the distance. And then he says to her, "I'm just another one of your inventions, but you are life itself." And I mainly wanted to just talk about that awesome line. And you know, again, it's just Fellini being like, yeah, my wife is amazing, and I don't know what I was doing this whole time. There's a poignancy to his writing. It really, I can see that being cheesy. It never is. It never is.
It's so perfect, you know, coming from that character, because he kind of is both a happy memory and a total divergence from kind of how she's been living. And for him to be like, you know what, don't idolize me, don't idolize all of this, like, you're you, is beautiful.
Yeah. Again, I don't even see how you interpret the movie the way you did. I think there's so many times that it's like, you do you, girl, that's the end.
Yeah, as we've spoken through it, yes, this scene also definitely supports your interpretation.
Thank you
but
so much.
I think there was a lot more on the other side, which maybe is the character, because she's trying to throw off all these shackles.
Yeah.
So it's less about throwing off the free-spirited side. But yeah, I felt myself pulling back a bit, and I think that is fair, you know.
I mean,
I'm glad we've talked through it.
I bet a lot of people at the time pulled back from this for a variety of reasons. I think it's probably even less accessible than 8.5, personally. Though brilliant in color, my goodness. I'm so excited to see more color from him now.
The sex mansion, as he said, has all these like hexagons of different colors, and I think it's in the same house, like these flowers on the steps that cascade into greens and reds. And we see this a lot with the directors that worked exclusively in black and white and then switched to color, because it's a new tool. Like, they don't take it for granted. They're like, how can I use all this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do think he does a good job of, again, the contrast, using it in contrast, because that scene and that house stands out so much. I think everything is pretty bright. It's still like 60s, but I think the way that color is used very bombastically and then sparingly in other times, like the contrast of like the white room at the end, the red flames, it's great. I don't think this works in black and white at all, which as you're saying, it's like he made a thing based on the tools that he had.
Yeah, I think this version of the film wouldn't work in black and white. I think you could make this, but you would he would have done it obviously differently.
Yeah. But I like that it is in color.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then we get to see, I think it's cool to be able, people say a lot about black and white that it kind of dehumanizes people. That's why they do the kind of recolorings of, you know, World War I photos and things like that, because it really brings, they're not this like mythical, fictional kind of thing. When you see people in full color, you can imagine them in our world. I think black and white feels very much like a different world, or not real world, because a lot of people know black and white now from movies and old TV, I guess. And so I like that we get Julieta Messina in color, like we get the raw woman and also a thinly veiled version of her that she plays throughout. So
obviously we've talked about pieces of it, but do you want to properly talk about her performance? Because I think it is different than anything else she's done.
There's a lot of grief in it. She's not her usual sprightly self that we know from La Strada and from Knights of Cabiria. I think, she has very sad, emotional moments in those movies, but I almost think it's that her emotional range, what she shows as a character, she's a lot more reserved in this role overall. And the main emotions we see is just like a deep, brooding sadness about her situation.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very effective way to play it. I saw a few reviews kind of saying that she's tamped down by this role. I personally disagree with it. I think it's a different turn for her, and she's older now. Like, this is a role that has a lot of gravitas to it, and I think it works with like the stage of her career that she is in at this point. For me, I don't know. What did you think?
It alternated. I think it is all intentional. I don't think, she's phoning it in or whatever. But there were some times where it felt very effective. And then there were other times where I was like, I wonder if, this is a wheelhouse you haven't quite explored. And she was kind of feeling her way through it. But overall, I think it's strong. But I don't think it's as strong as definitely the other performances that you mentioned.
Even though it's a more serious turn for her, I think it's less character work than either Gelsomina or Cabiria. And this is a lot more about spectacle and grandeur and fever dream. This is not about the plot, or it is and it isn't about her. Because I think if you've seen her other things, if you know her as a pop culture figure at this point in time, I think you do kind of already know her. Like she's playing herself to some extent. So yeah. But I'm also incredibly biased because I anything she does, I'm like, ooh. I'm such a fan now. And yeah, I definitely want to watch some of her other things that I'm sure won't be as good, but they'll be good because she's in them. And probably for me. Sangria Man.
Well,
sorry, I'm just reading my notes.
Oh, actually, honestly,
you want to talk more about?
So funny to me.
Oh yeah, I mean that's another like sexuality thing because he says it quenches our secret thirsts.
Okay, did you? I mean, maybe there's more to it than I gave it. It seemed to me like that Fellini had just gone to Spain for the first time and tried sangria.
Oh my god. It was an extended sangria sequence.
Well, it's two, because they do this whole talk, and then the scene ends, and then like a scene or two later, this guy's like, "Ooh, here's also some sangria." I'm just like,
oh, that I think is a more justified scene, because to me it was him flirting with her. He's like sensually putting in the fruit, and then he says the line, "It quenches our secret thirsts."
Well, but
and like looks at her.
Yeah, but couldn't that be done with like most? Like it seemed like Fellini, at least to me, I just tried sangria and was like, "You guys gotta check this out."
Oh, I think I can see him being like, "I need to put this in the movie. We gotta let the people know." I can definitely, in the same way that he loves variety acts, right? Like, I think he found sangria and was like, this will be in the film regardless. I will make it work.
Yeah, which sangria is very good, but I don't know that I've talked about it as much as this movie did. It was pretty funny.
I certainly haven't until right now, I guess.
And then, on the variety acts, did we get a new one this week? We definitely had the parade, dancing, that kind of stuff, but was there a proper new one for the first time in 9 weeks?
Maybe no.
He ran out.
He ran out? Wow. No, I really initially was going to take the martyrdom play as that. But I don't, it doesn't work. It doesn't quite work. Yeah, we just get some reruns.
Yeah, no, I mean, the procession was here, and there was, singing and dancing and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't think we got, I don't even know. Nothing equivalent to balloon moving with trumpets or something like that.
True.
Yeah, I'm glad you're making this film to try to repair your marriage. Could you put in some juggling, please?
I think it'd be so sick. I really tried to find more specifically on their marriage. And, I didn't do hours of research, but it really is funny how the narrative is either, like, some people don't even mention. It's like, oh, they were married for 50 years, like, until they both died. Or it's, he had some affairs, like we see that in his works that we are talking about and have talked about. And that's just kind of it. It's like, yep.
Yeah.
He had affairs, and that we don't get to hear her side, which, classic women. I saw this array of, it was a collection of photos of the two of them, and there's a few of them in a gondola kind of kissing and cuddling, and a couple other like cuddly ones, but a lot of them, and this makes sense too, right, considering that there are also artistic partners, but a lot of them are like either her posing with like an Oscar or like a bunch of awards on a desk and they're both there. Yeah, just a lot of award posing. And I thought, I wonder how much of this is, while we are such great artistic matches, that I'll stick through this, for her. I'm really, really fully reading in to this woman I know not at all, but who knows?
Yeah. And maybe some of what I read is being a little unconfident in your part. I mean, maybe that's a little disinterest, and I wish we saw her side. I wish we knew how she felt about making this movie, because it is such a strange project to have written for you. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder how she perceived it.
Again, this is where I take issue with the fact that she's named herself in this, but he doesn't get named in this as himself, doesn't get named in La Dolce Vita or 8.5 as himself, where he's portrayed as a dirtbag as well.
Well, this one, the guy was not quite him, like, in all fairness. Sure. He was some publicist or something. Yeah.
And I think that's important. It's important to take the art element out of it to tell this story. I think that would be pretty wild. Or just literally 8.5 again. But I think this is the last thing she really does. Is that right?
I mean, she comes back for Ginger and Fred eventually. We'll get there.
Oh, thank goodness. I really thought this was the last. She's Ginger?
Yeah.
Yay.
And maybe we're totally wrong. Maybe she was grateful for the part and found it therapeutic. We just don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it was she took it as the love letter that I think it was meant to be. We don't know. And it is regardless. I think the prescriptive advice is more the issue that I take with it, and that I could see someone taking issue with as the subject.
Yeah. She just needed to be in the writer's room to be like, here's what my friends actually said. That would have been good.
And I think there's for all of Fellini's progressiveness, I think that's where it's the 60s, and yeah. Probably not a thing that ever got thought of.
I mean, he might have. He had his team of writers that we've actually not talked about that much, but it basically is the same people weaving in and out on his writing staff. So, I mean, it probably wasn't even intentional. He probably just didn't even think about it. It's like, these are the people I write with.
Yep. These are the men I write with to tell this woman's story.
These are my beefcakes that like the top writer credited on this one, also wrote on 8.5, La Dolce Vita, Knights of Cabiria, La Strada. He had a system for sure. Well, it is that time. Would you recommend the film?
I would. I am not sure how you're going to answer, but for me, I think it's between the weird, crazy visuals and how genuinely impressive I think those are. And I think well pulled off for the most part. And again, just getting to watch Julieta Messina helm a film, even if it's not, her most iconic of roles, I would watch it again today. For her. Yeah, I think it's one. Last week we really both talked about how seeing 8.5 a little more in context enriches it. I think it's the same with this one in some ways. And also I think it works as a standalone thing, but because it's this biographical piece, I think it helps. I think it enriches the text. And I thought about like this real woman, Juliet Messina, the actress, the woman throughout. And I think that enriched it for me. And there's something about art that has that extra dimension to it of reality, or that blurs the line of fiction and reality. And I think that this doesn't probably do as well without that. So yeah, that would be my caveat. I think at least learn a little bit about her. Yeah, maybe watch, La Strada and Nights of Cabiria, and then this, like a nice trilogy of Messina. Yeah, would you recommend the film?
Yeah, I mean, I think, despite my hangups, it is just good filmmaking. I mean, it's beautiful to look at. It's fun and exciting. The messaging is portrayed interestingly, and it's using, film to explore in a way that I think the story, at least as presented, works best in film form. So for all those reasons, yes, I think we've discussed my hangups enough, but I think it does have issues. And I'd put this probably below his last couple, unfortunately. Although I guess, his last three are three absolute classics, so maybe that's not that bad. But yeah, I think it is very good. I think it is pointing us to, where we'll go from here. So I am excited in that way as well.
I do think, if this is another one of those marking of a new era for him, I think when we leave Nights of Cabiria, we pretty much leave neorealism, and then we're going into something else with this one. And I don't think it's completely clear, but I am excited to see, like, if this is your first attempt at whatever you want to call this style, then I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a film that has the most metal title, metal sound. I don't know what the next one is about, but Satyricon
is that next?
Yeah.
Along with a couple things.
Yeah.
If you agree or disagree with anything we've said here, if you want to interpret the film, please write to us, retrospectivecinemapodcast@gmail.com. We also have Instagram and TikTok at retro_sin, CIN. We have kind of the calendar going on Instagram, which it finally had a couple people interacting this week. And then TikTok's more for videos on newer releases mostly. I'm not sure what's in theaters this week.
I still haven't seen the drama, but I'm gonna go see the drama this weekend.
Okay. We also have letterboxes for some reason. What?
Letterboxing? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can find me there at Ryan Loves Film.
And I am also there at Annie Morell.
One thing I forget to say every week: if you've been sticking with us and enjoying us, you should give us a rating. Hopefully 5 stars. I guess if it's not 5 stars, you could also keep it to yourself. But
don't bother. If it's not 5 stars,
I mean, we only have 4 ratings, so like it'd tank us if you did anything.
So
else.
It will tank. Yeah. A single person filled with vitriol for us can. And it'll all come, the empire we've built will all come crashing down.
Yeah. But yeah, please, it does help us reach new listeners and helps us with the algorithm and all that stuff. So yeah, if you've been sticking with us and enjoying it, I'd appreciate if you did that. And
if you're an older listener, email us and we'll help you figure out how to rate. Genuinely, I'll do it. Next week, as I mentioned, we are watching Fellini's Satyricon, as that is the full title. Though I don't know why it's not like Lee Daniels the butler. Like there's no other Satyricon. I just think that's really funny.
Oh no! Why was that the only option? I've never seen a Lee Daniels film, but I just get such the ick from everything I hear about him.
You should tag us out. I've been doing it.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna look at Satyricon.
Well, whether you're catching up with Juliet of the Spirits, watching Fellini Satyricon, spirited watch it.
That's it. Okay.
What do you
I
want
thought there was
from
going to
me?
be a setup,
You
but
should,
there's no.
you should do it, she
No,
says.
you're the editor.
And then just criticizes.